President Obama remains in South Africa tonight, a trip that has been in the works for months, but comes at a delicate time as that country deals with the failing health of its beloved former president, Nelson Mandela. Today, President Obama met privately with Mandela's family to offer his support and to honor the former anti-apartheid leader's place in history. NBC's Chuck Todd is traveling with the president. Chuck?
Good evening, Lester. The president's three-day trip to South Africa, originally designed to focus on U.S. priorities when it comes to trade and economic development for the sub-Saharan region, has instead become all about the ailing Nelson Mandela. Not only about his legacy here in South Africa, but for the entire world.
From the moment President Obama set foot on the ornate presidential grounds in Pretoria, there was only one issue hanging over the visit to South Africa: the health of Nelson Mandela.
He remains critical but stable. So nothing has changed so far. We hope that very soon he will be out of hospital.
Referring to Mandela by his tribal name, President Obama, as he's done throughout this trip, shared his personal feelings.
Madiba's moral courage, this country's historic transition to a free and democratic nation has been a personal inspiration to me.
And he essentially called him the George Washington of South Africa, noting how, like America's founding father, Mandela knew to grow a democracy, he had to walk away from power.
Nelson Mandela, similarly, I think was able to recognize that despite how revered he was, that part of this transition process was to make sure that it was bigger than just one person.
After the press conference, the president went to the Mandela Center in Johannesburg and met privately with several of Mandela's children and grandchildren. Mandela's wife, who has been at her husband's bedside, was not at the private meeting. The president and First Lady instead called her at the hospital. In a written statement, the president shared the thoughts he communicated to the entire family. I express my hope that Madiba draws peace and comfort from the time that he is spending with loved ones. While the president has been well received by South African officials, a few hundred protesters critical of U.S. policies on drones, Cuba, and Israel gathered at the site of an afternoon town hall meeting. But even at that forum with young African leaders, the subject turned back to Mandela's legacy.
This is one of the greatest legacies of Nelson Mandela, that a country can prosper despite a tragic history.
The president spends one more day here in South Africa, where he'll be meeting with fellow Nobel laureate Desmond Tutu. Then he plans to take his entire family to Robben Island, where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for nearly 20 years. Lester?
NBC's Chuck Todd for us in Johannesburg.